Hello, my name is Salty, and I am Motorcycle Addict. Welcome to tonight's meeting of degenerates and a few honorable, uncorrupted souls, but that is still up for debate, which would make this political. So let's get on with the 69th episode of Throttle Thursday. Shift into fourth gear, release the clutch, and twist that throttle into the special guest episode. So grab the snack and drink, sit back and enjoy. Getting ready to put in the work and get you ready to rev up your passion for two wheels, like you're going under an overpass, and to lay down some miles. This guest is going to get you going the distance. He is in the green room and ready to twist the throttle and let the clutch go and rip onto the stage from within the Badger set, a different type of hole. That being said, this off-season, please remember those of us suffering with PMS, park motorcycle syndrome, our bikes suffer too. Still trying to convince my wife motorcycles are a good financial investment. She doesn't agree, but I'm willing to trade one basket case for another. Maybe I'll have better luck with her than I do. Let's sit back, talk about motorcycles, the lifestyle. It's all about the adventure. Most of all, remember, chopping ain't easy. If I wanted to ride something easy, I would have called your girlfriend. The weather's been very bipolar, to say the least, and cold, and it's southern parts, and them people aren't used to that. Keep them in your prayers. That's not a sunburn from the beach this time of year. It's freezer burn. Moderators, please control the trolls and engage upon with politeness and positively with an added dash of sarcasm and ill-mannered humor to enlighten the rest of the inhabitants of the chat. If that troll makes a choice to re-engage the moderator or myself, it is his choice to carry on or terminate. If it is directed at another member of the chat or a person that is not present, or if that statement is vulgar or threatening, terminate. Otherwise, try to de-escalate before dropping the hammer. These are the rules of engagement. Without further ado, let's get on with tonight's show. Salty Badger arriving. Tonight's special guest edition of Salty Badger's Chopper Talk and Tales from the Road is coming to you live through StreamYard on YouTube from the Badger set and streaming to you on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. So my kids have no excuse to miss an episode unless, of course, I just plan for them. And in that case, I understand. Please welcome to tonight's special guest, KSolo of KSolo's Podcast with Logic. I have conjured up some questions to ask him. Then I'll let him tell us a bit about himself and his journey on two wheels. With that being said, all right, everybody, this is KSolo. How you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great, Salty. How are you?
Good. Glad to have you on the show. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, definitely.
Jump right into it. You want to introduce yourself a little bit? Tell people a little bit who you are?
Sure, Salty. I am KSolo, better known as KSolo the Rider. I've been riding now for probably over 30 plus years. Former military, retired, served 22 years. 3 combat tours. I retired out of Seattle, Washington, out of Fort Lewis up there. Opened up a small bike shop, ran that for a couple of years, and I sold that. And then I joined an MC, and then I was riding from there on, man. And I'm still riding. Done some great things, some incredible things. Rode 100,000 miles on a bike in a year twice, documented by the IBA. I've ridden the Hokahay, I've ridden the IBR, I've ridden in Mexico, I've ridden in Canada, Nova Scotia, and done over 100 certified IBA rides. So my resume is a little long.
Right. That's one of the things I said is I told people I had a legendary guest. You're doing legendary things in the motorcycle community and riding. I mean, those are things that a lot of people just think about doing. There's a lot of stuff that goes into that people don't realize.
Oh, yeah.
So,
oh, yeah, man.
I have some questions on that stuff, and we'll kind of roll through those if you don't mind and go from there.
Yeah.
When was your first memorable motorcycle experience?
My first memorable motorcycle experience, and I'm going to go back even before I did super long distance riding. My first long ride was from North Carolina to Atlanta, Georgia, and I was on a ZX11, Kawasaki ZX11. I was scared. It was like I was going out into the wild blue, never ridden that far before, just hopped on 95, man, hopped on 20, And I mean, it was scary experience for me because I'd never ridden that far on a motorcycle, but I was stationed there. And so that was probably one of my the first memorable moment on a motorcycle.
Nice, nice. That's a good little ride too.
Yeah, yeah.
Were you in the service at that time when you
Yeah,
did that
yeah.
ride?
I was in the service.
Yep.
I was stationed in Atlanta.
Okay. So the next one is who is your biggest influence in regards to motorcycles?
Oh man, I would definitely have to say some of the great legends, um, Sugar Bear, the former president passed away from East Bay Dragons. My co-old club members, Easy and High Tech, those guys really influenced me. Hero Benson from Chosen Thru, he experienced me. Sonny Boy from Sin City Disciples influenced me. Some guys from Outkast, Eric Rowland, Low Key, the guys who named me out of my old chapter up in Seattle really influenced me. So it's been a lot of people that have really had a positive impact on me and riding. Oh, and then I also like to send a shout out to Sharif Al-Sadiq, my brother, who I've done a lot of rides with, Kenneth Andrews, and the whole Hoka community.
Nice, nice. That's definitely a big
It took a lot to give me.
That's a lot. I mean, you've got a lot. You're like you said, your resume is huge and you've done a lot. And that's
yeah.
Like you're a busy man and you put a lot out there.
Yeah.
So how long have you been doing it for, riding for?
Like I say, I got my first bike when I was a teenager in school. I had a bike before I actually had a car. And so I've been riding all my life. I've been through the gauntlet of Yamaha, Suzuki, Kawasaki. It wasn't really until I purchased my first Harley, which was a road glide. It was a Savage road glide. I bought it from a gentleman up in Seattle. He had a shop that he was going around buying bikes and stuff like that. And he had a bike. And I said, man, I want to buy it. He said, another guy just bought it, man. I'm sorry. But what I'll do is I'll find you a bike that I know you'll like. And when he showed me the bike, I'm like, what the hell is this, man? There's no front end. There's no front fairing. The gas tank is missing. What the hell is this? He said, listen, I know what you're going to do to this bike. You're going to build it. That stuff you don't need. And I'll sell it to you at a better price. And he was exactly right. So when I got my first road glide, which was a 2007 road glide, I built it. I built it up, man. I mean, he was right. I mean, the tank, I did an extended tank, the front fairing, the bars and everything, and it come out beautiful. And that's when I really got into long distance riding. So after I got my first road glide, my first heavy touring bike, my first long distance trip was from Seattle to Savannah, Georgia, man. And it's just been like an addiction since then.
Nice. That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, once you're in it, you're in it. It's one of them things that doesn't go away.
Yeah.
Especially when you're laying down some miles and you're getting out there riding, it sticks with you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So you kind of answered one of them already. One of my questions was your first bike, and you said that in the beginning. That was one took your first ride on. So what was your favorite?
No. My first bike. Now my first bike was a Yamaha Phaser, which I got that bike because I wanted the VMAX, the Yamaha VMAX. It had the nice chrome swoops intakes, the fat tire on the back. It was like chop, man, like aggressive. And so I wanted that bike, but I couldn't find one, and I couldn't find one that I could afford. But they had the little FZR, the Phaser, and I got it, and I loved that thing, man, until the chain broke and just kind of messed the transmission up, and I had to get rid of it. That was my first bike.
Okay. So what's your favorite bike from the ones you've had?
My favorite bike, the bike that really put me on the map, I would say my 07 Road Glide. That thing was almost bulletproof. I really enjoyed it because that's when I really started doing the Four Corners ride. As a matter of fact, this year would be my 10th year in a row doing the SMA Four Corners ride. And I would go all over the place. I had no issues with it, man. And it just really made me feel empowered to ride that bike.
That's awesome.
So I would say that bike probably was my most favorite memorable bike.
Yeah, you probably kind of grew to that one a little bit. Kind of
Yeah.
you were learning together with that one.
I know, right?
Spend enough time with it, you kind of grow together.
Oh man, I had some moments out there next to that thing, shivering, hovering all up on it, riding, rain, and everything. You know,
It
the
becomes
wind.
like a marriage.
It's a love hate.
Yeah, that's the way it is. So,
Yeah.
is there someone from your life, living or not, that that you'd like to share some miles with that you haven't been able to yet, or you were never able to?
Uh, my father is still alive. But he's up in age. He's in his high 80s now. As any son would want, to ride with their dad. But I left early home early, and my dad, we had a distance relationship. So just that I would love to ride with my mom, but I can't get her on the bike. That's family. Now, other riders
Right.
out there, man. I mean, all of the greats. I would say just to be able to experience. I really wish that I could step back in time. And I know you're on a time here. If I could just,
you're fine.
If I could just take a portal back in time when the bikes were rigid frames, like we were talking about, the chopper style bike, the lifestyle. When I just had Wolf on and I pulled up his pictures and he was riding his Sportster, those are the time that I wish I can go back. I think I'm an old soul biker. I ride because I look at the old riders back in the days, how they experienced it, how they look, how they carry themselves. That's why I still wear jeans. I still wear chaps, leathers, wristbands, dress the way that I do. And I carry myself the way that I do because I want to continue that tradition, that legacy of being a biker on forward so that future riders can sit there and say, hey, man, I remember this guy right here, or KSolo used to look like this. And he reminded me of how a biker looked. I look just like him. So that's another reason. My motto is aspire to inspire, be legendary.
Right. Oh yeah, you're definitely, like I said, you're doing legendary things across the board, and I mean that by the looking at what you've done and following you. Even before I did this and did a little bit of research before I had you come on, I'd already seen, the Hoka Hay stuff, like I told you before, is that I watch that stuff. Yeah. So, as a distance rider, what is your just one more mile moment ride where you fought through the elements of physical and mental exhaustion just to get that one more mile part of the ride in?
I would say the 2022 Hoka Hay Motorcycle Challenge, without a doubt. And some people know the story of it. The last day coming in on day 9, which typically they wouldn't let us in before the 10th day. You couldn't cross the finish line. But on that 9th day, as I was like 250 miles from the finish line, I wrecked. I don't know what happened. I was looking off into the distance. And the next thing you know, I was in a ditch. The bike was laid over. I was just flown to a pack. Everything was ripped off of the bike. The bike looked like somebody had just put it through a meat grinder. And luckily enough, I didn't get hurt to the point where I broke my foot, but the inner in me, the soldier in me, the warrior in me, picked the bike up. And I mean, it was down in an embankment. And literally, it was almost like it was a blessing. A lady who was a Native American was driving a big SUV. I think it was like an Expedition. And she came by and she seen me, say, you all right? And I said, yeah. And I said, well, do you got a rope or something? She said, well, I got this big chain. And she had a big industrial logger's chain. I kid you not. And I looked at the bike and I said, F it, you got to get out of here. And I wrapped it around the front end forks and she pulled it up. And I mean, she yoked that thing. And I'm like, oh shit, she done tore the bike up. But I ended up fighting with a broke foot, hurt, banged up, getting the bike back up on the road, bike in limp mode. And for that last 250 miles, Salty, it took everything that I had with a broke foot to get it across the finish line. And it was so bad that I called the operation cell for the Hoka Hay and say, look, I am going to pull up to the damn finish line because I can't turn this bike off. I'm afraid if I turn it off, it's not going to come back on. And they said, just come in, Solo, just finish. And so I came in the 9th day.
Nice. That's awesome.
10,000 plus miles.
That's pushing it right there. I mean, that's
Yeah,
definitely
man.
that's definitely pushing it past the level. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean that,
everything that they took everything that I had in me, man. The
and
soldier, the warrior, everything.
I told people, a lot of people, if you don't know what the hokahe is, go out there and check it out. They got
Oh,
websites, everything, and it's not for the weary and not for the beginner. You better be ready to put
you
your
better be
body
ready.
through a lot of things. If you
If
can't
you,
soldier through it, you better not
yeah,
even try that one.
and my hat
So
off to the guys from last year Hokahe, which that's what got my podcast started, is broadcasting the Hokahe.
yeah,
And for that first 2 days of riding in hurricane weathers, man, and everything that they went through, going from Key West, Florida, all the way up to Homer, Alaska, my hat off to them. It's definitely not for the weak, man. It's not.
yeah. So that's probably answers the next one too, which is out of all the miles and the adventures and tribulations of the road, what is that one tale from the road that sticks in your head the most?
The one tell, I would say when, and maybe it may seem sap, and maybe it may seem like a weak side, but Sharif and David Esalado and I was riding the Rat 48. That's the ride around the 48 states, IBA ride, where you go to the most extremes location around the country, and then each four corner state you do 1,000 miles. And we were doing the insane goal. And when David bike broke down up in like Minnesota, man, it really just, I'm like, damn, we've been riding this far. We bonded, we're tight together. And Sharif and I had to leave him, you know. He said, go ahead, guys. He said, go ahead. And so when he said that, it just kind of like, damn, man. It's like losing a battle buddy in combat. But he was fine. He was healthy and everything, but just him being out of the formation, that was one. And then there's another time that I was riding with my club brothers. We was going from North Carolina to Las Vegas, Nevada, and my bike blew. The motor blew. It dropped the spring down into the cylinder, and it just chewed it all up. And I was in the truck, and I told the guy said, man, we're gonna wait for you. I said, no, you're not. Carry your asses on. Keep the mission going. And I'm in the truck because the dealership sent somebody out to recover me, and the guys rolled by, and we just shot each other the bird, man. And I swear I just kind of choked up behind it, because seeing the guys in the pack rolling on, I felt good. I felt proud because I was leading them, but for them to go on, because I knew how to recover myself, but to see them go on, it was a proud moment, man. It was a memorable moment to me.
Right. Yeah, that's the big thing, is it's a lot of times sitting back and watching and not knowing, and but you gotta, if something goes down, everybody else has to go on. You can't let everybody else not. And that's a lot of times a good leader is the one that says everybody else go on, because that sets that memory there, and it lets the mission go on and things.
Yeah.
What's the most miles you've put on one single bike?
Oh yeah, Ambition. I think Ambition 5. Because I named each one of my bikes Ambition.
Okay.
I started out with the 07, but that was Ambition. And from there on, Ambition 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I'm on like 6 now. But I would say 5. I think we did like 106,000 miles in 1 year, from 1 January to 31 December.
Wow.
And I'm telling you, that bike was just as strong when I traded it in as the day that I bought it.
Yeah, that's sometimes letting them sit, they have more problems than if you're out there riding them and putting the miles in the maintenance. Because
I got it serviced every time. I kept it, updated, software update. Anytime I recall, I treat it just like I would my horse. I look at my bike as being my stallion, my horse. And as long as I'm giving it the oats that it needs, as long as I'm changing the horseshoes on it, it'll just keep running. It'll keep running with me to get me there and to protect me. And that was probably one of my most memorable bikes.
Nice. That's awesome. So if your body had a mileage, had an odometer on it, what would the reading on that body be, since you've been recording the mileage?
See, and that's the crazy thing about it. I'm glad you say that. You see that? Now,
yeah.
I didn't start recording my miles with Harley because I didn't know. We don't typically do that. Typically we buy a bike, we may buy a used bike, and we'll just ride it from there. And a lot of guys on the urban side don't know joining the hog chapter and the hog miles. So from the time that I bought my first Harley, man, in say 2011, I think 2011. Yeah, 2011, 11 or 12. I've been riding. That's 450,000 miles right there. But before that, I was still riding. Before I joined the hog, before the miles was being documented, before I started doing IBA rides. So I'd probably say I'm close to a mil. I'm close to a mil.
Whew.
I'm close to a mil. The body is close
Right.
to it.
No, that's, I can believe it. I mean, and there's a lot that goes into that. I mean, like I said at the beginning of the show, when you're putting down some miles, it's not, you don't just get out on a motorcycle and go buy one and say, I'm going to ride 100,000 miles this year, because it's not going to happen.
Oh, it's not going to happen.
You're going to disappoint yourself very quickly.
Yes. Because there's a lot that happens between day one, January the 1st and December the 31st that dictates your ride when you're out there. Things that you can't control, the elements, the wilderness, the wildlife, you physically, because last year I had to have surgery. I got diagnosed with diverticulosis. And so it took me out of the game for a while. And then I tried to come back. I tried to come back too fast, and I ended up hurting myself, and I almost had to sit out the rest of the year. But I ended up on the year with like 75,000 miles, through the hog and towards the 450,000. But it's just things that you never know. If you try to sit and say, I'm gonna go ride 100,000 miles, you better have a good support. You better have a good bike. I've known people to go out and say, I'm gonna ride 100,000 miles, have bike issues, and then you had to get another bike. You know what I'm saying? Now, instead of doing it on one bike, you're doing it on two bikes. I know people who, who's done 100,000 miles, 100 days, which was absolutely crazy. But you can't ever dictate what you're gonna do when you're riding. And then I ride for a purpose. My purpose is my sanity as a veteran dealing with PTSD and riding for the club. At the time I was in the club, I was riding for a purpose. So a lot of those miles, I didn't even realize I was doing, because I was going to see my bros. I was going to an event. I was going to do the Hoka Hey. I was going to do IBA rides and meet people.
That's awesome. That's just plain awesome. All the stuff that you've done and everything. What would you say that there's what's your damn I did this moment? Like I'm here and I did this.
Oh man, without a doubt, riding up to Prudhoe Bay, Alaska, top of the world, baby, solo by myself. Salty, I'm telling you, man, that gives me a right now, brother.
Alaska's my bucket list, man. That's on one of my bucket list rides. I've got family up there too, but that's always been one of my bucket list rides, is to take off and just ride up into Alaska.
Solo by myself, man. No support, nobody with me. To ride to the top of the world was incredible. That's
some of my favorite times are right there, right on the bike by myself, no plans, nobody with me, just alone on the road. It's serenity, it's just your mind's there. And sometimes I'm a veteran too, and I got to get away from my own thoughts in my mind. And that sometimes I tell my wife I'm out of here and just take off and take off for a ride. That's what you got to do.
Yeah. Thank you for your service, my brother. Thank you.
Thank you too.
Yeah.
So what is your best advice for someone that's trying to get into distance riding?
Make sure your money's right.
It's expensive. I mean,
it's expensive, man.
I said in the intro, motorcycles are, they're not necessarily the best financial investment you can ever make.
Man, I tell you, make sure your money's right. Make sure your health is right. Make sure you have the right bike for you, and don't go out trying to impress other people. Because I say it all the time, if you're going to go out for the likes and the fame, you're going to die a senseless death. Make your ride your ride for you, ride for whatever purpose you have. If it's for your sanity, if it's for serenity, if it's for even some people ride for charity organizations or trying to help bring attention and awareness to something. Let that be your goal, to sit there and say, when I throw my leg across there, this is what I'm riding for. I know what I'm riding for, so that God forbid, if something happens to you and you take that last breath or you see that last vision, you can go with a smile on your face, brother.
Yeah, that's an awesome way to put it. So your bucket, every time I've seen you on videos and everything, your bucket always seems like it's full. You know, they say you got a full bucket. Your bucket seems like it's overflowing. And
Oh man,
you've done a ton of rides, but is there a bucket list ride in there that you haven't completed yet?
I can't say that I've been everywhere because every day I have this group called the Back Roads of America on twos, the Back Roads, and every day we're posting new locations, stuff that people have been to. So I've ridden every state, including Alaska, Hawaii, and all of that, and the lower 48. But there's certain little places and things that I would like to see. Some places I would like to go back and visit and take a little bit more time and get to understand the history of it. I'm a big history buff, man. I can go and read some old history stuff and connect with it, and just kind of sit there and say, now when I was sitting out there in the middle of the desert, when we was in Desert Storm, Desert Shield, when I was in Afghanistan, when I was in Iraq, out there fighting for other countries, and America's back here, I could sit there and say, now I want to go see what I was fighting for. Now I want to go see this beautiful country. Riding through Colorado, man, riding through Oklahoma, riding through Minnesota, Angel Inlet, going up there to the most northernest point. Just to me, my bucket list is full, but yet though I have another bucket now. So now I'm working off 2 buckets.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, you got a good attitude all through your shows, and your podcast is your podcast itself and your guests that you come on, they're very inspiring, like yourself. And it's a very legendary thing. Like I said, I can't say it enough. It's not always about, when you leave this world, but it's how you leave this world.
Right.
And when you leave, that's what leaves that legacy and builds that thing. But the miles and the things that you do and the way that you work through them, it's just keeping that drive going is awesome.
That's
and
it.
With that being said, what would you say to the younger generation to inspire them to share your passion for motorcycles?
The younger generation now, with the media, with social media, and a lot of people, and I look at the television show, the way that Hollywood is dramatizing being in a motorcycle club. People think they just want to just jump right into an MC or club. And when you riding in a club, you riding for that brand. What I would tell anybody, go out and spend a couple of years riding for you. Go out and ride cross country, coast to coast by yourself for you without a cut on your back, and meet people and talk to them, because people take a different approach to people that with a cut on and people without a cut. People more opt to talk to you without a cut, because then everybody got this idea of persona that, oh, you're an outlaw biker. Oh, they're going to hurt me. Oh, my family, protect my family. Big, scary biker. But if you take the time to go there and say, you know what, I'm just going to go ride to Colorado. I'm going to go ride Route 66 just as a civilian and just take all that in for a while before you sit there and say, okay, now I want to commit to riding in a club. Find you, and find the right bike that for you. Don't just sit there and say, oh, this looks good. This may be the bike that I want, or the stereotype of saying, oh, you got to go buy this type of bike to fit in. Find the bike that's comfortable for you. Go ride your ride, enjoy it. And then if you want to transition into an MC, do that. Because like I say, it's different riding for that brand and riding for your brand. So I would say embrace the motorcycle culture before you go embrace the MC culture.
Yes, I can't agree with that more, because you can't, there is more to the club life than just a patch or a vest or a cut. There's way more to it. And Hollywood has influenced people the wrong way about the way that the club life is and should be. In my own opinion, that's just the way that I feel, is that Hollywood's had an adverse effect on that.
Right.
So you kind of mentioned,
and you and I both know both sides of it. So you know.
Yeah. So have you ever been a chopper guy, and what do you think of him now?
Man, I have not been a chopper guy, but I so want to be a chopper guy. I'm gonna want a chopper. I want to be a chopper guy, but I do know that, and that's another lifestyle. Owning a chopper is a passion of love, man, because a chopper needs love every time you fire that thing up and take it out. When you bring it back, you got to turn wrenches. You have to turn wrenches. You're going to be fixing something, repairing something. It's just how they are. Because when I had my shop, I know people was like, man, I can't get this right. I can't get this. I can't find these parts. And so I would love to own a chopper. I would, but me being able to get on a chopper and ride the way that I could, the way that I can, or way that I typically do, the bikes aren't designed that way for it. Like we was talking earlier, I bumped into a pack of Vargos years back. They was riding on some peanuts, man, on some chopper with peanuts tanks, you know, and these guys get like 98 miles to a tank, and you ain't gonna get out there and ride 1,000 miles in less than 24 hours on a tank of gas, only get 98 miles. And then it being a rigid frame, but the persona behind it, man, the culture, the chopper has its own culture. It has its own get down. It has its own river camps and back road camps and get togethers. The lifestyle is different. A chopper rider is different than a bagger rider. That's
one of the biggest questions. I mean, I ask chopper guys all the time. Would you say there's a difference in from the chopper side of it? It's huge. You might be a chopper guy and ride a bagger.
Yeah,
but you don't fit in the bagger community where if you don't fit the same. It's
right.
Just a different thing.
It's a different mentality, man, because these guys are MacGyvers. These guys are guys who can sit there and say, I'm a fabricator, or I'm a tinker on this, or I know the weight of some W1040 oil or some crap like that. And those guys look at things differently. They look at it as say an engineer would look at stuff. And so those guys kind of stick to themselves. They're in their own little world. I bumped into those guys. I had the privilege of being invited to some of their events. But, you know, I do know, I just that conversation. You can't even conversate with a chopper guy because you don't know what they're talking about. What the hell are you talking about, dude?
Yeah.
But, yeah, I would love to be a chopper guy, man.
Yeah. So what events and stuff you got planned for this year? Anything big?
This year I'm gonna be in more of a supportive role and just trying to get my podcast up and running. I'll be supporting the Iron Elite event that's going on next weekend down in Jacksonville, Florida. I will be supporting men and women who love to ride up in Ocean City, Maryland. That'll be happening in a couple of months, and a couple of other events. And of course, you know, we have the Reef and KSolo official Ride to Eat. But in between there, I plan to get out more and get back to my old roots of visit some clubhouses, send some of my old friends, send some of my old club bros, stopping by some old clubhouses that people would get up in the middle of the night and come and say, hey, Solo, if you're hungry, man, we got food. If you just need a place to crash. Big rides, I don't really have anything big. I will not be doing the Iron Butt Rally this year. And once again, it's health reason, health concerns. I'm not 100%. I'm in the gym. I'm working to get back there. But I think now that my accomplishment and achievement, I've already written my legacy. And I think now it's time for me to get back into a different role, being contributing to the motorcycle culture.
That's completely awesome. I don't have a bunch more for it. I definitely appreciate your time. You got a lot of stuff. You got anything you want to say in closing before I do the outro and stuff?
I'm without a doubt, Salty, man. It's an honor to be on your show. I love what you're doing. I love your intro. I love the people you guest, the way you conversate, man. You're very articulate. You know what you're talking about. I love to hear you. Here comes the Salty Badger, man. How does it go? The Badger's arriving.
Yeah, you know, that's an old Navy thing. I took that right off the ship when the captain would walk on.
Yeah,
that's my granddaughter at a motorcycle show in downtown Detroit, riding on my gas tank with my chopper. That was 100% organic with some big YouTubers. Just what is it? Just JQ.
Just GQ.
Yeah, just GQ was there, and Sassy Pants. A lot of big YouTubers were there. A lot of people filmed it, but that was my moment. They didn't put it out there. They said, that's your moment. Yeah, you know, they sent me the videos. I got lots of videos of it, but that was my. You know, that's something for you. That's not for us to share.
That's awesome.
So,
That is absolutely awesome.
She talks about it from day right there. Fred Frederick, Blackula was there, and she talks about him nonstop, and just like the Chopper stuff, Detroit Randy, all the guys.
Yep.
She can talk. She's 3 years old, but she'll get guys at the Harley dealerships respect, because they're like, oh, there's a kid walking around these motorcycles, but she won't touch nothing, but she'll walk around and she might know something about it and she'll tell them.
Right.
So
that's awesome.
I definitely want to thank you, and I'm gonna thank you. That is all I have for tonight. And
okay.
But I can assure you that if you're not following KSolo, you're missing out on not only some very awesome content and awesome podcasts, but he's got journeys of a lifetime that he's doing. He's doing just such legendary stuff that it's something that you got to follow to understand the person that he is and the man that he is, and that's what's making him become what he is. But
and before I go, I would just like to say my podcast is not necessarily centered on my accomplishment and achievement, but what I want to do is I want to highlight the unsung riders out there now that's doing as well, because everybody that's doing some incredible things aren't on social media or aren't as well known as I am, but they still have a story to tell. So my podcast is to have a platform for them to come on and share their stories and their legacy to be put down in time, to be captured in the moment.
Well, definitely appreciate it. It's definitely everybody that's watching, or if you watch this on the rewatch, any of that stuff, or if you watch the podcast coming out next week, please make sure and check out his content. If you like to do all that fun stuff, like, subscribe, and follow. Thank him for coming on the show tonight. And everyone, get out there and ride when you can when the weather breaks. Get out there and put some miles down and become a rider in your own. And thanks, man, for coming in. I'm going to roll the outro here in a second. I'll kick you down to the green room and on out of here. Appreciate you. And I will be in contact with you. And I can't thank you enough for coming on.
You know, aspire to inspire, be legendary.
All right, guys. What an awesome guest. I try to go out there and I try to find people to bring on, and I can't thank the people that take their time in here enough to come in. I do have a whole nother part of the show lined up for tonight, but with that guest, I think I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to roll the rest of the show into tomorrow, but stay tuned for tomorrow's show because I got some more news coming, and I've got other channels, small channels to share and get out there. And I just want to do what I can to get everybody to know that these things are what it's about, is supporting other channels and getting people out of here. And get out there, ride, like, subscribe, hit a smaller channel. That's what makes the difference, is getting out there and supporting smaller people and doing that kind of stuff. I'm sorry I didn't get a whole bunch done on the chat tonight or anything, but I was just as impressed listening to KSolo sharing his stories. And that's what I wanted to get out there the most in the small channel spotlight, is that. So that being said, I will see you guys all tomorrow. I hope you all enjoyed the show. Get over there and check out KSolo's page. I'll put it in the description afterwards, and check his stuff out. He does some great podcasts. And with that, it's about all that I have for tonight. Sick Bastard has a live tonight, so you can get over there, check that out. And I do believe we do have a couple other lives that I will give a quick shout out to before I end this. And we will see what we got. We have Moto Noggin's going to be live tonight also. So get over there and check those lives out. And I'll share all that stuff in the description afterwards, so you can get over there and check all that out. And I will get a whole show back to the normal program tomorrow. And I appreciate everybody.
Sweepers, sweepers.